always sort of instinctively been able to read what animals are trying to communicate with each other, with people. To me, actually, it's a lot more straightforward because they tend to never do or say anything that they do not mean, unlike human beings who do that all the time. Anything that they do has an actual purpose and they don't tend to lie about it. So you could argue I probably understand animals better than I understand people. You can pick up on stuff pretty easy, but the biggest thing that you want to make sure of is that if you're not sure, even if you think you're sure that something means something, look it up. Most behaviors have been studied by, experts and things who study the behaviors of whatever species it is. And so most of that you can actually look up. Now, the only time that it may not be accurate is when there's not been enough studies on a certain behavior or a certain species to really know. But most of the time you can second guess your findings with what you've been observing just by looking up to see, okay, when they do that, does that really mean that? So, very important not to assume, but it is quite straightforward. All you have to do is kind of sit around and watch and observe, and you'll catch on pretty quick as to what stuff means. Problem that I see is that people really don't observe closely enough, and they're not thinking of animals in the way that they should think of animals. Animals are actually very complex. They have emotions, they have brains that can think. Once you give animals the mental capacity and emotional capacity that they deserve, then you can start, for lack of a better term, thinking like they do. They do think differently than people do, but they're not brainless and they don't only go by instinct. Big difference between wing flapping and ruffling their feathers or preening their feathers. Preening feathers and ruffling feathers is a sign of submission, usually. Wing flapping is a sign of dominance. Ruffling the feathers obviously can look similar to wing flapping, and I kind of just have to wait till one does it, and they may not. But basically, when they flap their wings in dominance, it's only their wings. When they ruffle their feathers, they shake like a dog shakes after it came out of a lake or a pond, or after you give your dog a bath. They shake their whole body. And unfortunately, nobody wants to ruffle their feathers right now. So sometimes ruffling feathers can be a sign of stress as well. Or it can just be a sign of ruffling their feathers because they got an itch or something somewhere. So that one can mean several different things. Feather preening can mean several different things. It can mean that they're simply just cleaning themselves, or it can mean that they are showing signs of submission. So it really depends on the circumstance. You have to watch what is the other chicken doing at the moment, what's the situation around them, in order to make a decision on what some of these things mean, because some of these things can mean more than one thing. There's many other noises and stuff that I have not caught yet on video. There's a noise that they make that's just social, where they are either anxiously looking for something, or they're just trying to interact. Soft clucking and things like that is more just social interaction. Right here we have two chickens that were like frozen. Look at that. They finally started moving. But I know it was kind of hard to see their heads because of the light reflection, but they were actually kind of halfway squaring off a little bit, very lightheartedly though. One chicken had the head to the side. They weren't staring at each other directly on, and that one chicken that had her head to the side and lower down was the one that was being a little more submissive, and this hen over there finally did a very, very light peck on her head. Didn't hurt her at all. And she won that little battle. She came out the dominant one of that little, not even a battle, it was more of a tiny little argument. So it could be that she was just testing that hen. Or that they were testing each other to see who would come out on top. They do that a lot. They do that just to test, to see, can I be the dominant one here, or am I going to stay? Now, they're playing with a feather now. Everybody's interested in the feather. That's another thing that they do. They will pick up objects and carry them around everywhere, and almost like a game of tag. But that's a predatory thing. That's predatory based. They're treating that feather like they would a bug or something. And so when they do something like that, that's usually all it means. Just an instinct to go after something that looks interesting, either to chase or to pick up. I don't know why, but they typically have a fascination. All chickens have some level of fascination with very fluffy feathers. I don't know if that's because the fluffiness is always moving in the wind and blowing in the wind, and that movement causes them to look at it. I don't know. But, so like I was saying, there's a few vocalizations like that hungry noise, looking for something. Sometimes they'll make that same noise when they're looking for the perfect nest box. They'll start kind of clucking. That's the only way I know how to describe it. In a very social way. There's one over there that's sort of doing it. Some people say they sound like little mini trumpets. The hens usually are the ones that make that sound. So now she's being quiet. There we go. So that noise is either I'm looking for the perfect nest box, or I'm looking for a cookie, or I'm trying to be social, something like that. And there's a difference between just sparring and actually fighting to the point where it's aggressive fighting. They can spar without causing any damage. When they start to mirror each other's movements, it does. It looks like they're looking in the mirror. Because whatever one does, the other one does. When they actually start fighting, you'll see a lot more kicking and biting and physical contact versus, sparring does not necessarily have to have that in there. I highly doubt I'll get an example of sparring because, we could go months and not see any of our chickens spar. So we're getting into the evening hours, and a lot of the dominance happens in the morning and the evening. A lot of these dominant rituals, a lot of these roosters testing hens, a lot of just in general. So that's maybe the misconception of roosters crow in response to the sun going up and down. Well, yes, in a way they do, but in another way it's kind of like, okay, they get up, they gotta do their duties for the day. That hen just told our teenage rooster, hell no. He was trying to advance towards her, but she didn't want any part of that. So basically, they get up, they are just like us. What is the first thing you want to do in the morning? Well, if you're a chicken, you have your own little chicken schedule. You're going to put your priorities first, and for chickens in flocks of other chickens, their priority is establishing and maintaining their rank in the pecking order. So of course it makes sense that that they would want to establish that when they first wake up in the morning, and then before they go to bed, and go to sleep, they want to reestablish that because that's their last chance to do that before they go to bed. So I believe that's most of it. Although I won't rule out that they could actually be responding to the sun. I have had roosters that it's been a cloudy day all day, and then the sun comes out, and then they genuinely crow, I think, out of excitement that the sun came back out. So I do think part of it is actually could be related to the sun and not to rank or anything like that, or any other reason.